I don't believe they had the same awakening or the same conclusion that you got while you were there. I heard more of the complaining. I heard more of blaming on the outer circumstances. In fact, I felt like they were professional blamers. I did not feel that they were coming to this internal decision where the power is within. Hello and welcome. You've landed on Zero Limits Living. Every week I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. This show has become so popular so quickly you can now see it or hear it on 1,000 platforms across the galaxy. Everything from Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, YouTube, and probably anything you can name. I'm making it easy for you because I'm putting all the episodes in one place. Zero Limits Living TV.com. You can even sign up there to be notified whenever there's a new episode. I'm doing them every week. You don't want to miss any of them. Also, people ask about coaching. Coaching's trendy right now, and it's a buzzword and has been for a few years. But I started Miracles Coaching almost 20 years ago. Check out Miracles Coaching. It's trademarked. It's a system that works. It's been tested. You can go to miraclescoaching.com and sign up to get a free consultation. Kick the tires. Find out if this is something you want to drive. It's worked for a lot of people. It can work for you. But go to miraclescoaching.com and check it out. My latest program has been really changing the world. It's called mentaltimetravelsystem.com. It's a way to go to the past mentally, rewrite the experiences and conclusions you've made to empower you in this moment, and then in this moment to create and mold and attract a future that is exciting and a future you deserve. Check out mentaltimetravelsystem.com. Also, you know I'm an author. They tell me I've written almost 90 books. I find it hard to believe, but I haven't counted them because I'm too busy writing them. My latest book so far is Unexpected Kindness. And Unexpected Kindness is on Amazon, or go to unexpectedkindnessbook.com. I wrote it for two reasons. One was to give thanks to all the people who were unexpectedly kind to me when I was broke and unknown and struggling and on my way somewhere, but nobody knew where. They were kind anyway. And the second reason I wrote it was to inspire you, to ignite something in you to do unexpected kindness for other people. And unexpected kindness doesn't have to be big. It can be a smile. It can be a cup of coffee. It can be $1 handed to the person at the right time. It can be the right word to the right person in the right moment that transforms their life. Anyway, Unexpected Kindness, it's on Amazon. And now, the most exciting thing of all, my guest today is somebody I couldn't wait, and I can't wait to interview. She agreed to be interviewed, and I've been devouring her new book, which is called Prosper Me. And it has 35 universal laws to make money work for you. 35. I've written lots of books on money: Attract Money Now, Money Loves Speed, The Awakened Millionaire. I forget how many different books I have, but I didn't have 35 laws in those books. She found and wrote and described very clearly 35. She's here, and we're going to be talking about this book and these laws. Let me tell you who my guest is. Victoria Rader is a possibility coach. She's a transformational speaker and the founder of, I hope I pronounced this right, Why You Two Shine. She empowers coaches, entrepreneurs, and spiritual seekers to manifest miracles by uncovering and solving underlying hidden problems and patterns with her innovative possibilities, reigniting passion and expanding peace, purpose, and prosperity. She is an 8 times international best-selling author. She is globally recognized along with Brené Brown, Richard Branson, and others for creative and innovative ideas, adaptability in business, and contributions to sustainability and mental health projects, and more, and more. She's a wife, mom, animal lover, tennis player. She found it possible to create her business through struggles and triumphs of marriage, child raising, business building, tragic losses, and moments of divine grace. And there's even more because I know she was born in another country and had to leave there to come here. This is an inspiring woman with an inspiring story. And as I like to say, 35 laws to help prosper you and me. Please welcome Victoria Rader. Victoria, how are you?
Yeah, Joe, I am so deeply grateful. I think this is an unexpected kindness in my direction to be with you today.
Well, we're all doing it. I'm doing it. You're doing it. Nick and the people in the engineering department are doing it. The Candace Barr, who made the show possible, is doing it. We're all doing an unexpected kindness. As I tell viewers and listeners, I don't get paid to do this. You don't get paid to do this. We're doing this to help other people. So thank you for your unexpected kindness. Thank you for agreeing to being here. I've been excited about this moment.
Wonderful. Let's add value. Let's add value.
Well, the first thing I want to talk about, and I hope it's okay with you because it's on the personal side, is it looks like you were born and raised in the Ukraine
Hmm.
and you had to
Yes.
leave. When did you leave?
Well, I was born back when it was still a Soviet Union. So I
Hmm.
had a luxury of learning internal freedom and its importance with the absence of external freedom. And my joke is that, the country couldn't stand separation. I left and it fell apart. But I came shortly after Ukraine became independent and permanently moved to the US in 1995.
Wow. And I love that inner education and the outer education that you just specified. I want to say something real quick. I've been to Ukraine twice. The
Mm.
last time I was there, I went to Russia, gave my presentations. Then I went to Ukraine, gave my presentations. Then I went on my merry way. And right afterwards, Russia invaded Ukraine. And I kept wondering, was it something I said? Were they that sensitive? And of course, I'm joking. It was a very sad experience for me because I still have friends there. You probably have friends and family there at this point. But before we go too far, you said you learned the inner world. How did you learn the inner world in circumstances that are really teaching how to survive, and that's about it, in the outer world?
I had a luxury, and I mean it, a luxury of being stripped of choices. The Soviet Union being a tyranny had gazillion of duties and obligations and no rights. I think here in the United States, we're a little bit prone to having rights and no obligations, which I think is towards anarchy now, not necessarily
Hmm.
freedom. And so, what it looked like back home is that all the choices were made for you. Like you couldn't go to school and choose to take a certain class. The choices were made for you. You couldn't just pick up and go to a different city. You had a passport, internal passport, and in that passport was a stamp that told you where to live. So when
Hmm.
you are in a circumstance where you're stripped of those choices, you tend to retrieve inside. And the deeper you retrieve inside, the more you understand that that is where your sacred space is. And that is where you find peace, protection. And if you truly lean into that peace and protection, ironically, that is the only thing you do need. And so when I say it was a luxury of being stripped of choices, I really truly mean it. I'm not being sarcastic. It
Hmm.
almost forced me to retreat deep within and realize I might not have choices outside, but nobody can control what it is that I choose to feel and what it is that I choose to think inside. And that became a sacred ground. And then with witnessing how that sacred ground, manifested amazing miracles from that place of peace.
I'm already in awe. First of all, as I mentioned, I've been to Ukraine twice, and I didn't meet that many people, but I met a lot of people. I don't believe they had the same awakening or the same conclusion that you got while you were there. I heard more of the complaining. I heard more of blaming on the outer circumstances. In fact, I felt like they were professional blamers. I did not feel that they were coming to this internal decision where the power is within. How did you get to that conclusion? Other people in the same country going through the same boat, going through the same, here's your passport, here's where you go study experience. But yet you have this awakening that, oh, it's my inner power and it's my inner choice. Nobody can take that. How did you come to that conclusion?
through mastering blaming first.
Oh, yeah?
I'm telling people I'm not an enlightened butterfly that flutters following divine guidance. I'm a rhino who stumbled on enough promptings to know that I better listen to them. And so, when you pout long enough and you get nothing, you
Yeah.
say, maybe, just maybe, there is a better way. And so, this formulated grace that comes out of my mouth is a process of first awareness,
Mhm,
realizing that being sad, being upset, and blaming, like you said, complaining and comparing
mhm.
is draining who I am. And then saying, how do I stop it? How do I put the bleed? Putting the stop to that energy bleed.
But
And then asking the next
did you
question.
read a book? Did you have a teacher? Did you have s Was this all just you inside yourself? Was there an angel? Was there a voice from God? What there d Give me something to work with here, because right now it sounds like you are very unique. Was there a book? Was there a mentor? Was there a moment? Was there something that was a turning point and awakening for you of some sort that helped you go in this direction? Because it's one thing to say, I I was the rhino, I did all the blaming, I found it didn't work. Now I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna make choices. How do you know what choices to make? How do you empower yourself to go in any particular direction when you're in a country that does not endorse it, let alone allow it? Help.
There were a lot of contributing factors. I want to point out three most important ones probably. Since a
Excellent.
very early age, I became no stranger to death and dying. I've witnessed
Mm,
people dying a lot, and I have developed a very interesting understanding of death, starting
uh,
losing my grandpa, who was a very important role in my life when I was 5. My family left me at home while going to the cemetery. I ran behind them, hiding behind trees, not understanding what was happening, and watching the procession, and then watching, not understanding anything. And this deep void of a loss, this deep void of a loss remained with me for a very long time. Incredibly shy child, so much so that I had no friends till I was 11. And here's the
mm,
first poignant moment. I saw somebody who was hurt more than I was at age
mm,
11, reaching
mm.
out to somebody who was even more shy. There was this girl who needed help more poignantly than I did. That was my first moment
Uh,
of understanding.
I got
And
chills. I got chills hearing that. Okay, that's your first moment. Thank you.
that was my first moment. Then the second one was the library.
Mm,
I poured. Now the communist library is very different from a free library. The books, but hey, you can even find good teachings from Marx if you really are set on it. If you're really set on
it's
it,
in there somewhere, right?
it's in there somewhere. It's really all good. Mine is the free agency, actually. It's the free agency that's important. But the books, I've read a lot. I read a lot. I read a lot of books. And then the real big turning factor was the birth of my child, my
Uh,
first daughter. And this is very emotional for me. I am 22 at a time. My husband and I are very, very not well to do financially, so much so that in our place we don't have curtains on the window. And I'm laying there in a puddle of emotion, holding my baby. I'm hormonal, and I feel completely inadequate in
mm,
every area of my life, financially, emotionally, as a mother, physically, and I'm holding that baby, complete mess, right? Pity pool. And all of a sudden, I have a very strong prompting, a very clear feeling. And to me, Christ is a very meaningful figure, historic figure and otherwise,
mhm.
that he was born in a stable. And if it was enough for him,
Uh,
this is plenty enough for me. And that phrase, this is plenty enough for me, has
mm.
become a phrase that pulled me out of many devastating emotional circumstances. It's
Oh,
plenty enough for me to start. And then the mentors.
oh, Victoria, I got chills up and down my spine. First of all, it's a beautiful story, but second of all, it's plenty enough for me. That whole sentiment of acceptance also is empowering when you consider it. So thank you for sharing that. I got to go to the second thing for a minute because obviously I'm a book guy, and I'm really curious to know what books or book you might have read in a country that has really edited what you can read that made a difference for you? What stood out? Is there a book that we would know around the world or in the US that you have
Metamorphosis by
read?
Kafka. You can change. And I kid you not, Metamorphosis by Kafka in my philosophy class. I was reading there, and what I've absorbed from that is that no matter what, you can change. What a freeing statement. No matter what, you can change. Yeah, that
And
was the big,
that was from a work of fiction.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Very, very beautiful. Well, there is something called bibliotherapy, and therapy is where you use books to heal yourself, to transform yourself, or in this case, to empower yourself. So I love hearing that from you. So can we jump to how did you get out of there and end up in the United States? How did you leave? Was there a
The two
direct
step.
path?
There's the hiccup path. There's this two step. Um, Early on, my very close friend at the time, her mom married an American and brought her over into the United States, and she experienced a huge culture shock. So much so that she developed anorexic tendencies. And her mom
Mm,
said, "Hey, if you can come and help me with her, as her friend, I would like to help you get an education here, maybe go to Santa Barbara College." So I came and I stayed for half a year in California. And then when I went back and I went to Kiev Mohila Academy in Ukraine, which is a Kiev academy. It's a very old institution. It was closed for 70 years of the Soviet Union, but at a time it was reopened and celebrating its 750th anniversary. And in that institution, I met a gentleman who happened to be also later my professor, who happened to be my client and my husband of 28 years right now. And so I had the most prosaic, you know, uh, proposal where he said, this at this point, it's much cheaper for me to marry you than to keep coming to Ukraine and dating you. So that's how I came back to the U.S. permanently.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I was looking at your website earlier doing my homework before meeting you and interviewing you, and I saw that you had mentioned somebody in the Ukraine told you you would never learn English.
Mhm.
Well, you are speaking flawless English with the greatest command, and you are so articulate, so clear, and so centered. Your presence is so in this moment that it is awe-inspiring. Who in the world told you you would never speak English?
A well-meaning person, right? All the well-meaning people that harm us. A well-meaning teacher pulled me aside. I was really good at math, and math was king in the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
If you were good at math, it meant you could actually get a better job than just a nurse, And by
yeah.
just a nurse, I don't mean just because nurse back home meant something very different. And so she was encouraging me to focus on math, and she was a math teacher. So
Uh,
really, it was a well-meaning person who wanted to protect me
uh-huh.
from failure. She said, if you're going to learn language, learn German. You will never use English. And that still small voice that all of us have, and I mean it, all of us have, all of us, whether we choose to listen or acknowledge it. That voice said, learn English. That voice said, learn English. And I said, I appreciate it. Came home, sobbed on my mom's shoulder, and a little kid, completely discouraged, dreams crushed. And my mom said, well, are you going to live your life, or are you going to let her live your life for you? My
Mm.
mom was in,
Well, you had an
and
amazing mother. And how old were you when that was said to you?
about
About
11, about
ele
11.
about
Mhm.
11 years old. That is remarkable, but I also have noticed, and I need to point this out, that what you were describing is the kind of experience that most of us have had in one degree or another, in one situation or another as we grew up, but a lot of us locked in and listened to it. So in other words, it was an authority figure who says, "Don't learn English, go do math." And for a lot of people, they might have just accepted that because you're 11 years old. What do you know? But in your case, you also had your mother supporting you. You chose not to hear it. Have you found in working with people, because I know you do a lot of client work, you already mentioned the one person was your client who ended up being your husband. Have you found that this has been the case with a lot of people, that there is a locked in moment from the past where they made a limiting belief kind of a life path?
I think all of us to a different degree, right? And so usually it is the shiny side of us that is seen to the world.
Hmm.
And, just because something is easier for us, it might be assumed that all of it is easy for us. So what I found is that, and through different practices, probably theta healing as a modality the most, what I found is that um, the limiting beliefs are really not limiting, they're foundational. And it is wonderful to know what they are and then appreciate what they are. I believe there is a much faster way to release them. When we release them through deep, profound gratitude, we can collect the lessons faster. I was given this beautiful image of a tree that as a tree grows, it strives for more light, it strives for more wonderful things in its life, but its root system defines how strong it can be and how supported it is. And the root
Hmm.
system goes deep and deep into the dirt.
Hmm.
Our belief systems are the root system that goes deep into the dirt.
Hmm.
And some of those that we call limiting beliefs are the dirt programs from our ancestors who have sacrificed their lives because for them that belief saved their life. And yes, it's important for us to release it so we can grow, but it's even more important to release it through honoring the path that this belief has been created because it's not an enemy, it's a foundation of our growth. So, yeah.
What a beautiful insight and beautiful description. So let's help everybody, including me. If there is a belief that somebody has recognized, maybe they aren't even sure what it is, and it is from the past, and you said gratitude was one of the ways to acknowledge it and start to release it. How does somebody actually go through the process of releasing a belief? So we got a limiting belief, we inherited it, grandfather, who knows? It's now part of the root system digging into the dirt of our lives, and we realize that that might hold us back. What
Mhm.
do we do about it? How do we change it?
Obviously, there are different techniques and
Yeah.
modalities. The two that I use free EFT, which is a form of emotion freedom techniques that we've developed. That once you identify what that feeling is, the feeling that supports the belief, then you tap through the pressure points in your body to release it, and then you affirm into the heart what you'd rather have. For example, if you're scared to move forward, a lot of us are just scared to move forward. We can have a lot of different underlying causes, but if I just tap, I'm scared to move forward, moving forward is scary, and I
Hmm.
release it, and then I tap into my heart, it is safe to move forward. That's probably one of the ways that you can do it with the least amount of training.
Hmm.
I prefer theta healing. In theta healing, you identify the limiting belief and you cancel, clear, and resolve it, meaning you remove it at a very deep subconscious level without need for hypnosis because
Hmm.
you put the person's brain into theta. Theta is the low frequency of the brain when the brain heals itself and heals the body. Usually what I offer is that here's I don't know why it keeps coming, but because something keeps coming, I'm going to share it
Sure.
without, and hopefully somebody benefits from it.
Hmm.
What I find is that a lot of people seek connection, they seek revelation, they seek channeling, they seek light, they seek enlightenment. And deep inside, they carry a program that is many generation old that says, wait upon the Lord. We don't think in those words anymore,
Yeah.
but our ancestors thought of it. And what I find is that we go through periods of gaining physical weight when we are looking for spiritual enlightenment. And
Interesting.
so, in a culture where we're all looking at different weight patterns, we address the negatives, but usually I find it is the positive beliefs that are processed through negative understanding is what causes an issue. So what I do for clients, I say, yeah, and I'm going to offer it to the audience, right? It is safe for me to move forward on the path of enlightenment, of expansion, of love, without need of carrying the weight, the
Hmm.
emotional weight and burdens, the
Hmm.
mental weight and burdens, the physical weight and burdens. It's huge. I think that is the global program that is misdiagnosed right now. So that would be an example. I'm going to offer it to everybody who would like to receive it, that you move forward, right? Move forward without need of gathering, gaining, or proving your path with weight.
And when you said you're offering it to everybody, did you do some sort of energy
Yes.
transference in that moment?
Yes, offered it to everybody who, using their free agency, which is very big for me, can say yes to accept it. Oh, no, thank you.
Right. Well, I say yes and I accept, and I thank you for even wanting to do that as well as doing that. Well, I want to move to your book, if you don't mind. Your Prosper Me is a fantastic book. It is a masterpiece. I am in awe of it. I use the word awe a lot when I talk to you, apparently, because you are an awesome person. Well, your book is incredible. And I go through it. And of course, some of them I knew, but a lot of them was like, I didn't think of it that way. And you have great examples. I actually was looking at the book again a moment ago, and I opened it up. And I love this one because you were talking about the law of trust,
Mm,
the law of trust. And in it, you said, signs follow your faith,
mm.
not the other way around. Signs follow your faith. And I thought that was so useful because so many of us sit around waiting for a sign. When I get a sign, I'm going to go do something. And what I'm hearing is that no, you go do something because you have the faith, you go in that direction, and then you can get signs along the way. And I think you gave an example in the same chapter about sitting in your car and not going anywhere because you're waiting for a sign. And I love that example because I'm a car guy, so I can imagine sitting there and nothing happening because I didn't turn it on and I didn't start driving. When I start driving, oh, there's signs all over the place. So I'm curious, how did you write this book? You say you downloaded these 35 laws. Was download is a current trendy word. I think in the old days, decades ago, we would just say we channeled it, we were inspired by it, it came from the other side. We'd use different metaphysical mojo, whatever the woo-woo word might have been. But downloaded, it seems to be the current word. What do you mean when you downloaded it?
So for me, the program was, there's so many underlying currents for each story. I
Mhm.
just love each human life because you go like, well, this is what happened. Oh wait, but before this happened, but before this happened, but before this happened, and you invariably go back to, well, when I was born, and so it's always like, where do I start the story to offer the value? Because
Hmm.
honestly, when we have a luxury of awareness, we're going to find that the path is continual. So I will just kind of give glimpses into that.
Okay.
It was March 2021 when that was kind of sitting, and I was so full on into programs and classes, trainings, and I'm very big on the still small voice. Probably the biggest message I have. You have it, listen to it. That would be my message. Find it and listen to it. So I'm sitting
Beautiful.
there and the voice says, hey, cancel everything on your calendar. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Trepidation, overworked here, overachiever, let me tap using my techniques. So I cancel everything on the calendar for the month of March. And I'm thinking maybe I'm learning to rest. I talk a lot about resting. I don't know how to do that. I mean, maybe I'm learning to rest here. I'm going to get good at resting. And I did for 3 hours or so. And then that same voice came in and said, you're writing a book. And the book that I was going to write was going to called F off Marble. I am free with a good old F word there, and I don't swear, but it was like F off Marble, I'm free.
Huh.
And it was all about releasing what you were saying is limiting belief, releasing the extra marble. And there's a beautiful story that we might come to or not about the marble and Donatello and
Mm.
Michelangelo. But the book, neither here nor there, was being written. So I started writing the book and sent it to my publisher, and the publisher said the book is great. Change the title.
Ah,
And when I changed the title, I sat down and I said, okay, God, what's the title? And what came in was Love Me. And I saw me as little M. Biggie. And I
mhm.
said, great, I'm going to write a book about Love Me. I wrote that title. And then what came in next was, do you love yourself enough to write about your least favorite topic, which is money?
Ah,
Oh, wait a minute. Do I love me enough to write about money? And then what a bridge to cross.
mm,
And then I started learning what it meant. And I've learned that money is just a symptom of the underlying way I treat my soul. that money is just a form of energy that magnifies who I am, nothing more, nothing else. That love is the energy that creates all. And so if I find a way to write about money the way I would write about love, it will open someone's ability to love themselves enough that they can learn the laws of money so that they can prosper. That was the internal path. And when I sat down to do the book, I already had the videos, training videos on the 35 laws. Those videos were done as the laws came in for my subscription group as I was recording them.
Uh,
So then it was an easy journey.
so you somehow got people to be in a group to receive videos that you were making that would ultimately be on the 35 laws, correct?
Absolutely.
Did
Yes,
you know there were going to be 35 laws when you signed people up?
absolutely not.
How
I
did you
don't
get how did you get them to sign up when you're like, "Well, I don't know what the laws are. I don't know how many of the laws are. I think there's gonna be more than 5, and pay me or sign up," or whatever you do. How did you convince them to sign up for these weekly videos on prosperity when you don't even know what the universal laws are yet?
I love that question, Joe, because I didn't convince them. I did
Uh-huh.
exactly what you said. I talked to, I said to the people who are already my clients, and I said, hey, there's great stuff that is coming through me. Would you like to witness it together? Let's create a group, Quantum Freedom. The way the group was created is very tender. On December 2019, I got a very strong prompting, take everything you do that you do in person, put it all online. So in
Mm,
January 2020, we've launched our, Quantum Freedom Online a
mhm,
month before the world shut down to COVID. And then all of a sudden, people were like, wait a minute, she started the program. She invited us a month before the world shut down. What is it that they're doing behind their closed door? And so the subscription is called Quantum Freedom, and people started joining.
mm,
And that's where a lot of the quote unquote channel, download, however
mhm,
you choose to call it, work is happening, and
mhm.
programs were created. And the 35 Laws of Money was one of those programs that was created.
And so every week you sent out a video. How did you receive the information for that week? Did you sit down and go, "Oh," were you meditating? Was it downloading? Did you know what you were going to say? What was the process there?
The process is a little bit different. I do all the programs live with the people
Okay.
who are there. Some programs, a person asks a question, and the answer to that question that comes through comes both from my experiences and from the connection with, with the source that I have
Mhm.
and that we all have, and just um, the beauty of it all is I prepare relentlessly and I use very little. I prepare knowing that most likely it will not be used at all.
Right, right.
I prepare because preparing, it's a law of preparation. Preparing creates neural receptors for
Mhm,
divine to reveal through us. Think of
mm,
it this way. If the channeling is the flow, we call it the flow, the
mhm,
river will not flow without the banks. It will be a puddle. So
mm,
by studying, by actually working, by
mhm.
serving, we create pathways, the banks for the revelation or for the channeling to flow. So yes, I've prepared and I used very little of what I've prepared. That is as honest as it
I
can be.
I totally relate. I prepared, as I already mentioned. I looked at your website. I read parts of your book. I made all these notes. I do it every week. I almost never look at them because when I'm in the moment, I'm focused on you and I'm listening to your story, and it may or may not relate to whatever I wrote down there earlier. But this is the fire of the moment. And I
Mm.
want to be in this energy to see where it goes. We're already going places I didn't know we would go. So, but the preparation, for one thing, it helped me relax knowing, well, I kind of know where we're going. And if this guest doesn't answer questions, which has never happened, but if there was a guest who was more shy, I can turn to my little notes there and probably come up with something to trigger it to keep it moving. The whole point is I relate. And the other thing I wanted to say is I also relate to you getting your people to sign up for something they didn't know they were going to get because they trust you. They
Mm.
trust you. They've already grown to know you and like you and trust you. So when you say, I'm about to do this, would you like to be involved? And I know the experience because decades ago, before the movie The Secret came out, I had this following and an email list, and I had this idea just to send it on, downloaded it, I guess. And I said, I'm going to do something called the Manifestation Weekend. It's going to be a 2 day weekend. It's going to be in Austin, Texas. I don't know exactly what we're going to cover, but it's going to be really good and it'll cost $1,000. I sold out. I sold out. It baffled even me because I thought, well, if nobody signs up, I simply won't do the event. But if they do sign up, I'll show up. And of course, we filmed it, recorded it, and that went on to its own path. So I can see how this is working for you. But I'm so marveling at you on so many different levels. For one thing, not only are you very articulate, but you sound like you have a science background, like you understand the way the mind works. When you're talking about these things, you're not pure woo woo. You will talk about downloading and receiving and listening to the little voice, but you also seem to have the understanding of why that works. So are you reading the scientific literature as well as the metaphysical literature? Or is this all inner guidance?
Um, my background, one of my reasons, statistics. So,
Ah,
once you like to play with numbers, you like to play with numbers and you like probabilities. When I read your book, by the way, that touched my heart deeply, the unexpected kindness, and you mentioned
oh,
Bob Proctor.
yes.
I had an amazing opportunity to have Bob as my mentor for a short period of time.
Oh, beautiful.
And we had a very interesting discussion as to where, if you recall, Bob had a very strong belief that you have to have unwavering faith to manifest anything. You've got to be
Mhm.
unwavering. And I'm sitting there thinking, not with my hormones, not with my PMS. I'm going to be wavering. Watch me waver. And I'm thinking, there's
Right.
got to be a better way. There's got to be a way a girl's got to manifest. I'm not a steel Iron Man. I'm just not. I know me. I love me. I'm going to waver. And so, but jokes aside, I said, wait a minute. It's statistical probability. I don't get the unwavering, maybe to the degree that I think it's a phenomenal idea. I think it's a great idea. It's probably true because he
Mhm.
was a phenomenal master. It just wasn't, that truth was not attainable by me.
Ah,
Very often people will not do something in their life because the truth is not attainable by them. So I sat down and I said, they're great idea. How do I make it work for me? Because I cannot do that. And no amount of healing will heal me into, I think it's actually flatlining, So,
mhm,
and what I came up to, statistically speaking, is that dominant frequency always prevails. And dominant frequency is not 99.99%, it's 51. It is 51%.
that's beautiful.
So
51%. Yes.
50, and all of a sudden say, wait a minute, all I need is a 51%. All any one of my clients needs is 51%. That's attainable. That's attainable. And then you also are not punishing the 49% of you that are human, that are raw, that are vulnerable. You get to love them. So that was my
Mhm,
shift of being able to tune in to, what, I'm 49% worried, but I'm just going to be a little bit more calm than worried. I'm going to be calm about being worried. I'm going to be calm about not having the results that I want. Do you see that that's become the
oh,
dominant?
that's no, that is very beautiful. I hope everybody watching or listening actually takes all that in and hears the nuances of how you're describing things. Now, I have several questions for you, and one of them is, with 35 laws in your book, Prosper Me, were there some that really surprised you? Like they came to you and it's like, I didn't even know that one. That one seemed to come out of nowhere. Were there one or two that surprised you?
I think the order in which I was receiving them surprised me even more than some of the particular, well, the law of consecration. I was learning
Yeah.
what I was writing. I like the what, the what, and so the law of consecration is a law of complete surrender, if you think of it this way, in a simpler
Mhm,
language. And being Ukrainian, unless you haven't seen, we don't surrender too well. I mean, surrender is not a thing we do too well genetically.
mhm,
So much so that I like to ponder and make things work for me without necessarily changing into someone. I know I was created as who I am, and I believe
mhm.
all of us are created as who we are. Right? So I'm saying, okay, how does this surrender work? And I was actually in one of my sacred places for me in my temple, and I'm sitting there, I'm sitting on the bench, and I'm pondering, how am I to surrender? If I to understand the law of consecration, which you surrender it all in order to have access to all, big concept, surrender it all to have access to all. How do I surrender? And I'm sitting on that bench and I have a strong feeling, lift up your feet. So I'm lifting up my feet while I'm on the bench. Then the feeling, comes in the voice of the feeling more. You're now surrendering your weight to the bench. That is what surrender to divine looks like. You surrender so that you can be completely supported. I could
Mm,
now understand that. So you don't
mhm,
surrender so that you lose who you are.
mhm,
You surrender that you're completely supported as who you are. Right? It goes back to it's enough. What you've got is enough to start. What you've got is good enough to start. And
mhm,
so that became my very clear path of I'm going to surrender to love over and over and over and over. I'm going to
mm.
let love carry me. I'm going to let love show me the way. I'm going to consecrate all my issues, all my troubles to divine because I'm not strong enough at times to carry it, but I know I can surrender it.
That is so beautiful. When I talk about surrender, people sometimes get confused because they think in terms of the victim surrender. Like I surrender, meaning I give up, I roll over, I play dead, I'm the victim here. And I talk about surrender, meaning a kind of a giving in. You're giving in to the higher power, to the God force, to source, to whatever the word is. But I like what you're talking about, and I love the example. When your students were going through this, as you were making the videos and they ended up with 35 of them, did they have any ahas or did they actually have some money making experiences? Since this is about prosperity, do you have a story of somebody or even you learning one of the 35 laws and then there's a breakthrough? There's an opening, something shifts, and there's actually prosperity.
Many stories.
Mm,
And for different people, different laws. I mean, so much so that we've actually created a quiz at moneyquiz.me. What it does, it shows you driving emotion that you carry
mm,
and the three top laws that it unlocks. Because I now can say, post writing the book, that the reason there are 35, they're all aspect of one law, which is surrender to love, surrender to divine will and guidance.
uh,
But we are so uniquely wired that we will connect to that concept through one of the 35 faster, deeper, with more connection than through others. The two that are first and the last, primacy and and recency, the two laws, the first one that is the gratitude, and the last one
mhm,
that is the forgiveness, they're the anchoring laws. Because for most people, understanding and living them, there were most stories from that. The law of
yeah,
gratitude says, what you appreciate appreciates. It's very simple. We know that the property appreciates in value. Well, so does a relationship. If I'm going to appreciate Joe, which I do, by the way, so deeply and genuinely and authentically, right? That just grows, it grows. You
mm,
know, I, I have to pause. I have to pause this surrender thing. I have to share this, Joe, with you because
okay,
the way you were brought into my world has been such an incredible gift. And I want to just validate that because, I saw that you had my book and I recognized the name from The Secret. And I'm like, I know this guy. He's read my book. And I haven't read anything by his. And now that I'm on Amazon, I'm like, he has 900. You say 90, it felt like 900. And so I got your books. I got the 10 books. I read them, I absorbed them, was just mesmerized, started applying Ho'oponopono
mm,
immediately in my life. They have come into my life in such incredible time. And so when I say that I appreciate deeply the Ho'oponopono technique, the way
mhm.
you've taught it, has been life changing for me and now for all the people in my group who I've already sent to your page and to your books. They're all reading the Zero Limits. And so yeah, I want to honor that. So the
Thank
appreciation with
you.
appreciates. What you genuinely appreciates. So here's the drop the mic moment for a lot of people. It doesn't matter how well to do you are. I can tell you if you're going to be broke. Why? I see what you think about $1. The second a person says, "Oh, it's just $10," it's a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
It's $10. It is 10 freaking dollars. It is an education for somebody in a poor country.
Mm.
You say, I don't have to invest money. I don't have money to invest. And then we all go buy a cup of coffee because it's just $3. That $3 could have been a Tesla share
Mm.
back then. And so when you appreciate $1 as if it is $1,000,000, it grows to be that. And then the law of forgiveness. If you can forgive yourself for not having done what I just said, if you can let it go, you will give that pain, that doubt, your faults into the divine light, and you will give room for abundance to come to you. So those two laws are very anchoring.
It is. First of all, thank you. You took me up there. And I love all the different laws, and that we can talk about any number of these. But I just want to encourage people to go get your book, Prosper Me. And while we look at that, I also saw the interview with Jack Canfield where he was asking you, his very first question was about the title, Prosper Me. And you have me with the small m and it looks like a big E. And he wanted to know, so give me a moment of an answer there for everybody who may be curious about Prosper Me. What is the significance of that on your book cover?
With a little M, big E, in full transparency, and that's unfortunately the only way I know how to do things. I got the title, and when I got the title Prosper Me, I saw it in my mind as little M, big E, and here my immediate assignment of the meaning. I'm like, oh, that's going to be a great marketing interrupt. People come into the airport, they see little ambiguity, and they go like, why me? And I'm assigning meaning. We all do that. Like I'm assigning meaning, and then I'm like, well, since it was an inspired title, maybe I should ask why. I mean, maybe I should
Right.
ask the next question. I think it's so important for all of us when we receive guided answers to ask the next question. So that's when I paused and I said, okay, in addition to pattern interrupt and a great marketing tool, why me? Why little M, big E? And the tender answer brought all the work that I do into one picture because there is a part of me that is scared. I call it little M because that part
Mm,
is mortal. It's going to die. That part is made out of matter. That part manifests materially. It needs to eat. It needs physical world. But it's smaller part, the scared part of me, because a bigger part of me, the big E, is eternal.
mm,
And that energy that is essential and it expands. So the journey of this life becomes a shift from the scared am to the sacred E. And I say, when you look at the scared and sacred, same letters, with a little C shifting as a shift of commitment. So, how do I commit my mortal fear to my eternal presence? How do I commit the
mm,
needs of my matter to the
mm.
energy that I am? How do I commit manifesting to expansiveness and material to essential? And I do so through surrender to love. So that's the me mystery.
You are amazing. Uh, we're going to be nearing the winding down here, and I have two or three essential questions. And one of them is kind of a cleanup question because you mentioned a couple times and early on about the small voice that we all have and we all need to listen to, and how you listen to the voice about taking a month off and cancel everything on your calendar. First of all, that is a big request for a busy person. You hear this voice within it says, cancel all your appointments for the next 3 weeks, assuming you got a bunch of them. But even if you didn't, that's a huge thing to do. How have you learned to listen to that voice and obey it? And I'd like an answer that's instructive for everybody listening or watching, because as you mentioned, we all have the inner
Mhm.
voice, but we don't always know the difference between the ego voice and the spirit voice. And then we don't always follow it. We need guidance on both of those.
First, through ignoring it enough times and seeing the price I've paid materially. I mean, $30,000 deal, $70,000 deal at a
mm,
time when 30,000 and 70,000 was all I had.
mm,
And so, um, real quick, to bring things into light is that we have six mental faculties. We have six capacities of the brain. One is intuition, one is reason. They are either going to be harmonized or fighting with each other. So
mm,
for a lot of us, we will have a feeling, an intuitive feeling. We will either follow that feeling or we will depress it. Our reason will either support intuition or it will squash it. If our reason squashes intuition, we then do the logical thing, and that can become devastating.
mm,
So it's learning to know whether what you feel is intuitive or instinctual. What is the
mm,
difference? Instinct comes from fear. And when we blocked intuition, we have instinct to get us out of fear. Instinct will say, run away, walk away from this person right now. It is fear based and it's very needed for survival. Intuition will say, come this way, turn right.
mm,
So they are on the same path. So if you feel that you've got to do something, before you're going to do something big, start with something little. Right now, ask yourself, who is the person that needs to hear from me? Pause. The name came. That's your intuitive voice. Grab your phone. What can I text them? What do they need to hear from me? Pause, trust, and write. This is safe. Start training your intuition. That same feeling with which you got the name and what to send them is the same voice with which you'll receive, go this way, don't go that way. And when that person writes back and tells you, I can't believe you thought of me, I can't believe it, you will receive a validation to support your intuitive capacities. Do it every day until you will start hearing it.
I
Somebody
love
needs
that.
to write me.
Thank you. I love that. All right. Two quick questions here before we run out of time. One is, was there a question you were hoping I would ask? You knew we were going to be doing this. You probably thought about different things we can talk about. Was there a question you were rubbing your hands going, oh, I hope Joe asked me this one?
The one that is coming through right now is that, is there something you've learned from Joe Vitale? Yes. Can I answer that one?
Of course. What did you learn from Dr. Joe?
I've learned so much, but I've learned that it's my responsibility. I struggled with the concept and I
Uh-huh.
translated to myself that it is my responsibility, that I'm able to respond. That was a gift that was phenomenal. So I've
Wow.
learned that I'm responsible for changing the world, not because I have to put the weight back on my shoulders, but because I'm able to respond through love. The greatest lesson summary of your incredible books. You freed me to be responsible for the world. So thank you.
Once again, you touched me. Thank you. Thank you very much. The show is called Zero Limits Living. My book that you referred to was called Zero Limits. And I think I'm in the business of exploring, do we have any limits? So my question to you is, do we have any limits?
I think if we call it zero, we identify it. And so I think there are no limits to who we are eternally. And there are gorgeous, healthy limits of our physical body that remind us of that.
What a beautifully expressed answer. My goodness. And I love that you paused. You paused so you can be clear and receive and then speak. I love that you did that. You are phenomenal. I am very impressed. We never met before. We didn't speak before. I follow you on Instagram. And of course, you agreed to do this interview. And I'm very impressed with who you are and how you speak and how you be. I know Prosper Me is the book I've been talking about, but what are a couple other books since you are an 8-time best-selling author, I think I said earlier?
My first book was called Until You Win. 8 Secrets to Winning the Race of Life. And it was a practical set a goal, pursue a goal, which is very important until your goal becomes surrender to divine guidance. So wherever you are, And then Until You Shine was a very high spiritual and energy loss for people that are, brain candy addicts like myself.
And where do you want people to go? Where can they find you? Where can they find your book? Where is the website you want them to land on?
Our home site is you to shine, number 2 shine.com. And for the quiz, it's moneyquiz.me. It's really a lot of fun.
Well, Victoria, I don't even know what to say. You are phenomenal. I want to continue our conversation. I want to see what else we can do in the future. I can't wait to sit down with you and break bread. Thank you for agreeing. Thank you for inspiring me and everybody else. And thank you for writing your book, Prosper Me.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. You've been watching or listening to Zero Limits Living. Every week, I bring you information and inspiration to transform your life. I'm putting all the shows in one place, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. So go check it out. Also, check out Miracles Coaching at miraclescoaching.com, my new program, mentaltimetravel.system.com, my new book, Unexpected Kindness, at Amazon or unexpectedkindnessbook.com. And I want to thank Lux Media Studios, Candace Barr, and Nick running the engineering department, and all of you for being here, because we're elevating the planet every time we talk and meet. Expect miracles. Thank you.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NASET. NASET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.